The perfect lot that wasn't. When I first found the empty plot on the corner of Willow Creek Lane, it felt like destiny. A wide open view of the valley, morning light spilling through oak trees, and enough space to finally build the modern home I'd been dreaming of for years. The real estate agent, a cheerful woman named Linda, assured me the neighborhood was peaceful, prestigious, and well managed by an active homeowners association. I didn't think much of it. I'd dealt with HOAs before. A few parking rules here, a grass height limit there, no big deal. The architectural plans were simple but elegant: glass walls, clean lines, and a cantilevered deck extending over the slope. I'd hired local builders and secured county permits. Everything was above board. The construction began, and by the third month, the house had become the talk of the area. But not all talk was positive. One morning, a silver SUV rolled up while I was on site reviewing the framing. A woman stepped out, clipboard in hand. Her expression so tight it could cut glass. "I'm Karen Fisher, president of the Willow Creek HOA," she said. "And you're building this?" I smiled politely. "Yes, the county approved everything. Isn't it beautiful?" She scanned the site, lips pursed. "It's different. We value uniformity here. Our bylaws require all homes to adhere to community standards, exterior colors, materials, setbacks." I interrupted gently. I made sure my design followed zoning laws. Karen's expression hardened. "Zoning isn't our concern. You're outside the HOA's boundary line. This property wasn't supposed to be part of Willow Creek." I frowned. "Then, why are you here?" She gave me a thin smile. "Because your house can still affect our neighborhood's visual harmony. We'll be in touch." I thought she was bluffing. But 2 weeks later, a certified letter arrived, notice of intent to sue. The HOA alleged that my home, though technically outside their jurisdiction, violated the aesthetic character of Willow Creek Estates. I couldn't believe it. They couldn't control land that wasn't theirs. Could they? The builders grew uneasy as whispers spread among nearby residents. Some avoided eye contact. Others stopped by with nervous smiles, whispering, "You're really going up against the HOA?" I laughed it off at first. But then came the online posts, photos of my unfinished house with captions like, "Modern eyesore ruins our street." That night, I stood in my empty living room, surrounded by the echo of construction tools, staring at the glowing skyline beyond the valley. I had no idea this dream home would become a battlefield. The lawsuit hits hard. The lawsuit came faster than I expected: 32 pages of legal jargon and intimidation. The envelope had that heavy, ominous weight that made your stomach twist before you even opened it. Willow Creek Homeowners Association versus Daniel Carter. That was me, the proud owner of a half-finished dream home and, apparently, the newest enemy of suburban conformity. Their claim? My property's non-conforming design diminished the visual harmony of their community and therefore reduced the collective aesthetic and property values. The fact that my land technically lay outside their governing boundaries didn't stop them. They argued that the HOA's sphere of influence extended beyond their map because my lot shared a main road with their subdivision. It was absurd. But absurdity doesn't stop a legal machine once it starts rolling. My lawyer, a practical man named Steve Alvarez, skimmed through the documents, shaking his head. "They've got no standing," he said. "You're not on their covenants, not paying their dues. It's intimidation. But it'll cost you time and money to fight." That was an understatement. Within days, my construction permits were challenged. Suddenly, the county's building inspector was reevaluating my setback distances and soil drainage. Coincidence? Not a chance. Karen Fisher, that HOA president with the clipboard, began walking past the site almost daily, pretending to inspect the neighborhood. Her disapproval was palpable. Once, she stopped to tell a worker, "You know, this house might never be finished if it doesn't comply." Word spread quickly through Willow Creek. Residents whispered when I drove by. A few left notes on my temporary mailbox. "Please think of the community look." One anonymous letter even read, "Sell the lot and leave while you still can." My dream home, once a symbol of independence and vision, had become a lightning rod for resentment. The local news got wind of it after someone, I suspect Karen, tipped them off. A headline appeared 2 days later. HOA sues to stop modern mansion from ruining neighborhood's character. Reporters showed up with cameras. The HOA spokesperson, a smug man in a blazer, stood before my half-built home and declared, "We simply want to preserve our neighborhood's charm. This outsider construction threatens the cohesion we've built for decades." I watched the segment that night, jaw clenched. They painted me as an arrogant intruder who didn't respect community values. But I wasn't backing down. Steve filed a motion to dismiss. "They can't touch you, Daniel," he assured me. "This is pure bluffing." Yet, deep down, I knew. The HOA didn't need to win in court to destroy me. They just needed to wear me down, delay everything, and bleed me dry. The war for my home had officially begun. The neighborhood turns hostile. The weeks that followed felt like walking through enemy territory. The house stood tall, sleek, and nearly complete. A modern marvel against rows of beige two-story homes with identical shutters. What once filled me with pride now drew glares, whispers, and the occasional phone camera snapping evidence. The HOA's lawsuit had stalled construction. My builders were hesitant to continue until the legal mess cleared up. I paid thousands just to keep permits active while lawyers exchanged paperwork. Every day that passed, my half-finished home sat there like a monument to stubbornness or defiance, depending on who you asked. Then, the real pressure began. It started small, tire tracks across my freshly leveled driveway. Then someone spray-painted eyesore on a wooden delivery crate left outside. I reported it, but the county police shrugged. "Neighborhood dispute," they said. "Probably just kids." But I knew better. Karen Fisher hadn't stopped her daily walks. Sometimes, she'd have 2 or 3 board members with her, pointing and muttering as if performing a ritual of disapproval. Once, she even brought a measuring tape, pacing along the edge of my property line while I watched from the porch. I finally confronted her. "Karen, why are you doing this? I'm not even in your HOA." She didn't flinch. "You may not be on our map, Daniel, but you're in our view. You built something that doesn't belong here." Her tone was calm, almost rehearsed, but her eyes burned with the kind of zeal only bureaucracy can breed. Soon, the hostility spread beyond her little circle. One morning, I found my trash bins kicked over, garbage strewn across the yard. Another day, the mail carrier quietly mentioned someone had asked him to stop delivering to my address until the lawsuit was settled. Even the local hardware store clerk started avoiding me. "Sorry, man," he said awkwardly. "HOA folks told us you're bad news. They said you're ruining property values." It was surreal, like being exiled in my own town. My lawyer, Steve, urged me to stay calm. "They're hoping you'll crack," he said. "They can't legally force you out, but they're trying to make life miserable." He was right, but something inside me shifted. I wasn't just defending my home anymore. I was defending the right to be different. That night, as rain pattered on the unfinished roof and wind howled through empty window frames, I stood on the deck overlooking the HOA's cookie-cutter rooftops. My reflection glimmered faintly in the glass wall. They wanted uniformity. I wanted freedom. And I wasn't done fighting. The verdict and the victory. The trial began on a rainy Monday morning, nearly 9 months after the first lawsuit notice had arrived. By then, I was exhausted, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. The HOA's legal team showed up with binders, color-coded exhibits, and a sense of smug entitlement that filled the courtroom. Before the judge even entered, their argument was simple but manipulative. My home, they claimed, disrupted the architectural unity and devalued the collective investment of the Willow Creek community. They even brought in a so-called expert witness, a local realtor, who testified that my modern design could reduce resale potential for traditional-style homes nearby. Steve Alvarez, my lawyer, waited patiently, letting them talk themselves into arrogance. When it was our turn, he rose with quiet confidence. "Your Honor," he said, "the HOA cannot regulate a property outside its jurisdiction. My client followed every zoning and building regulation required by the county. He owes this association nothing. No dues, no design approval, no submission of plans. What they're doing here isn't about unity. It's about control." He presented aerial maps, showing the HOA's official boundary line clearly stopping before my property. He played drone footage of the land before construction, proving that my lot had never been part of their covenant. Then, he submitted printed copies of Karen Fisher's public comments from social media. "We can't let outsiders ruin our neighborhood's look." The courtroom went silent. Karen sat stiffly at the plaintiff's table, her face frozen. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Fisher, your association has no legal standing to enforce rules beyond its borders. This case is dismissed. Those words hit like a thunderclap. The HOA's lawyers whispered furiously among themselves. But it was over. After 9 months of threats, rumors, and harassment, I had won. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed again. The same reporters who once called me the arrogant outsider now wanted quotes about a homeowner's victory against overreach. I didn't gloat. I just said, everyone deserves the freedom to build their dream within the law. Back at Willow Creek Lane, construction resumed. My crew returned, smiling for the first time in months. The final glass panels went up, the deck was sealed, and the house gleamed under the afternoon sun. The neighbors stopped glaring. Some even waved, cautiously. Karen, however, never did. Rumor had it she resigned from the HOA board soon after the verdict. When I finally moved in, standing in my completed living room with sunlight flooding through the glass, I realized something profound. My dream home wasn't just a structure. It was a statement. Against conformity. Against control. For freedom. I had built more than a house. I had built my peace.